Champ Brown. Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised at you. I mean, I'm really insulted. I mean, that's not right what you just said.
What do you mean? What I just said?
I mean, I'm getting a drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talking about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you would have stood a chance with me?
Well, wait, one time during my career, I was on a Bomb of the Month tour.
I would have been a bum because compared to you.
Well, you've been on the tour. Oh.
What's happening, my people? It's Cass Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's The Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to Miss Cass. Without her, none of this would be possible. Salute to Mike Mazik, Cam J Network, the Drunk Irishman. Salute to everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cass Sports, The Boxtorian. Today, great boxing nicknames. Great boxing nicknames. Have the family today. It's Tuesday, still early in this big week of boxing history. We're going to look at some of the great nicknames of boxing history, like the greatest, the Hitman, Pac-Man, Sugar Ray, Lights Out, all of them. We're going to cover all of them today. And salute to everybody in the building. Cam J Network, Fire Channel. Cam J just gave us some great news this morning. He's going to be on an interview with one of the fights coming up. I forgot what fight it put it in there, Cam, but yeah, great work. Young man doing great work over there, Mr. Consistency, and it's paying off. Yep. Our own Cam J Network is going to be on the virtual interview with the big wigs. Well, Cam J is a big wig himself, though. But congratulations again, Cam. Good, appreciate you stopping by today. But how's everybody today? Cam, Drunk Irishman, Mike Isaac, Miss Cass. Yeah, we're going to be talking about some big fights. I mean, nicknames today. The fights was yesterday. Some of the great nicknames. And then when that's finished, we're going to talk about some of the great switch hitters in boxing history, like Bud Crawford. Hagler was a switch hitter. Boots. Prince Nassim Ahmed. Some of the great switch hitters. Mike Tyson, every now and then, when he would get turned around, some fighters would just freeze and try to work themselves back to the stance. But Mike get turned around, he started throwing a couple punches southpaw. Mm-hmm. So all that today on Cass Sports The Box Story, bringing you all of that boxing history. And oh yeah, remember we covered, 3 months ago, we looked at a show where we looked at some Olympian of amateurs who had gold medal success in the Olympics and then became great pros. We're gonna look at some amateurs that had gold medal success in the Olympics and didn't turn out too well in the pro level today, later in the show. Yep. Some amateurs that, went to the gold medal in the Olympics and didn't have good pro careers at all. I got about 5 or 6 of them later. Big show today. But first, and yeah, remember this weekend we got Navarrete in there against Nunez. That should be good. And somebody finally catch up to Navarrete doing everything possibly wrong, but still managing to win fights. But Charlie Suarez of the Philippines, I thought he had beat him. That fight got stopped. They said it was accidental. Navarrete was bleeding, remember, but I think that was a punch, and I think Navarrete should have lost that one, but he kept his belt. He also lost to the guy from Brazil, Conceição. They called it a draw. Remember how happy Navarrete was too happy to get that draw and keep his belt because he knew he had lost that fight, but it might catch up to him this weekend. We'll see. We'll see. But let's start our show with the fight of the day today. Okay? Let's start with the fight of the day. Without further ado, today's fight of the day. Thank you to the studio audience. They're all back in the snow. Mm-hmm. Okay, today's fight of the day is Jack Dempsey versus Jess Willard. July 4th, 1919. Dempsey revolutionizes boxing. We going back over a century to the second decade, 20th century. Independence Day, July 4th, 1919. Okay, let's talk about it. To think, Jess Willard was actually the betting favorite going into this fight with Jack Dempsey. Never had the bookies got it more utterly wrong. The fight, staged on July 4th, 1919, turned into one of the most savagely one-sided and brutal beatdowns ever seen in a prize ring. What was witnessed under the blistering Toledo sun was a style of fighting that, quite simply, didn't exist before. The Manasseh Mauler, Jack Dempsey, revolutionized the sport of boxing with his all-out aggressive fighting approach that day. Tearing at his opponent like a man possessed, Dempsey was frighteningly bewildering. Savage was the only word on many observers' lips, as it was clear the noble art had changed dramatically. No longer with the bold, upright fashion of boxing, as used by defending champion Willett, where pugilists would settle it like men, be the norm anymore. Jack Dempsey had transformed everything boxing had truly entered. Jack Dempsey had transformed everything, and boxing had truly entered the modern era. Slight favorite Jess Willett had a hard time stopping himself from smiling during the pre-fight introduction. He had absolutely no idea of the pain and humiliation that was in store for him. Standing 6'6" tall, Willett figured the much smaller and lighter man Dempsey had no chance of hurting him. Hence, the constant good mood he was in before the fight. Willett had total belief he would soon be emerging victorious against his overmatched challenger. The terrifying beating he was about to have administered to him was as shocking to him as it was almost everyone else in attendance. Never before, or arguably since, has a man so favored to keep his heavyweight title been so brutally relieved of it. The action started uneventfully. Willett came forward, while the 50-pound, still got this little cold, I'm sorry. Let me take a drink. Okay, here we go. Let's continue. Now, the action started uneventfully. Willett came forward, while the 50 pounds lighter Dempsey darted in and out, looking for openings. The 260-pound Willett used his strength to tie Dempsey up whenever he got close, while going on the offense only infrequently. But then, with 90 seconds gone into the fight, the raw power of Dempsey revealed itself. Fighting out of an advancing half crouch, he suddenly exploded with both hands, dropping the champion with his vicious left. The crowd was electrified at the sight of the huge Willett being smashed violently to the canvas. But there was more carnage to come, much more. With no neutral corner rule to obey back in 1919, Dempsey was free to hover over his man and pounce as soon as his gloves left the floor. Willett bravely attempted to resume fighting, while almost certainly separated from his senses. And Dempsey went back doing what he started. Chopping away with both fists, he soon had Willett down again. During this time, the hulking Willett was pounded back onto the canvas for a third knockdown, then a fourth, and then a fifth. The fight had rapidly turned into a slaughter. Showing immense courage by beating the count for a fifth consecutive time, Willett tried his best to hold on to his wrecking machine of an opponent. But it was no use. He was driven across the ring by the marauding challenger before being sent to the canvas for a sixth time. By now, completely helpless, Willett tried hoisting himself up with the ropes, simply to be blasted back down again for a 7th time, offering a semi-upright target. Then, mercifully, the bell rang. Jack Dempsey was the winner and new heavyweight king. Just Do Boxing in the building. What's up, Just Do? Salute. Fight of the day, back to 1919, Jack Dempsey slaughter of Just Willett. Just Do Boxing coming up at 4 p.m. Balanced, unbiased boxing talk. Giving everybody the Just Do. But see, the thing they didn't know about Jack Dempsey, he was used to fighting bigger men. Before his boxing career started, he was homeless as a teenager, and he would walk in a bar and challenge the biggest man in there to fight for money just to eat. And Dempsey said losing was not an option because if he lost, he didn't eat. So beating up a big man, outweighed him like by 60 pounds like Willett, was nothing new to him. Okay, and he showed it. That was his first championship fight. But the bell rang, and Jack Dempsey was the winner and new heavyweight king. Or was he? Well, not quite yet. Erroneously thinking the fight was over, and therefore about to collect his winnings from the wager he had made earlier when he predicted his winning in a single round. The dismayed Dempsey was informed that the bell had saved Willett. The fight was not finished yet. Somehow, the busted up Willett managed to make it through 2 more rounds after that. This despite the damage he suffered. Broken bones and teeth were aplenty. That was for sure. Willett finally quit in his corner at the end of round 3. Who could have possibly blamed him? And then Dempsey was officially crowned the new champion. Legendary status. And in time, after at first having the ignominious label of draft dodger hurled at him, immense popularity were bestowed on the new champion. Immense popularity was bestowed on Dempsey throughout the coming years. In fact, next to Muhammad Ali, Jack Dempsey is more than likely the most beloved heavyweight champion in boxing history. Dempsey and his savage style of fighting may have been ahead of their time, but the hearts of fight fans the world over soon warmed towards the Manasseh Mauler, the man who revolutionized professional boxing. And there you have it, the fight of the day. Jack Dempsey over Just Willett, 3rd round knockout. Just Willett stayed on the stool, but it was really a knockout. Because if he had came back out there, he would have been out cold eventually. All right. Appreciate you. Just Do Boxing. Okay. So today we're going to look at nicknames again. We did this like early last year and kind of dust that off and look at some of the famous boxing nicknames again. There's a good one. Manos de Piedra, or the Hands of Stone, Roberto Duran. Smoking Joe Frazier. That's about the most fitting nickname I can think of. Smoking Joe Frazier could be, because he used to be smoking. Most fitting. Like Just Do Boxing is one of the most fitting nicknames of content creators. Smoking Joe Frazier. Very fitting nickname for him as a boxer. But the 50 greatest nicknames in boxing history today. And then we're going to talk about some of the best switch hitters in boxing history and some Olympic gold medalists that didn't make out too well when they went to the pro level. Once they went to the professional level, did not continue that dominance. Got about 4 or 5 of them later. But let's get into these nicknames and start things off. I can't get rid of this cold. Okay, let's go. We're going to work our way through it, though. Still early in this big week of boxing history, Tuesday. Now, Boxing has had its share of interesting nicknames over the years, from the crazy to the accurate, like Smoking Joe Frazier, from the funny to the bizarre. They're all here today. The best 50 nicknames in the long history of the sweet science. Now, this list is not done in any particular order. It simply compiles the best of the best, all in one place. So let's go. Let's get started. Got a little picture of each fighter and a little talk about their career. Some of them, how they got their nickname. Okay. So let's get started. Okay, yeah, I couldn't find out where I was at. Okay, here we go. Lights Out is first. There he is. There's Lights Out. Thomas Hill in the building. What's up, T. Hill? We had to dust off the nickname show today, T. Hill. Got to do that like once a year, just review the famous nicknames. What's up, Thomas Hill? Salute. First one is Lights Out, James Toney. James Lights Out Toney was a superior defensive fighter, known as much for his bulging waistline as his skill in the ring. Toney won championships at middleweight, super middleweight, and cruiserweight. He also won a share of the heavyweight championship from John Ruiz, but the decision was overturned when Toney failed a drug test. Toney chalked up wins over several high-profile names in his 20-plus year career, including the body snatcher Mike McCallum, another famous nickname, Iran Barkley, Michael Nunn, and Evander Holyfield, who are all on this list with great nicknames. All four of those guys that Toney had wins over, big names. With over 80 fights in his career and world championships in 3 weight classes, Lights Out was a no-brainer for induction into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. James Lights Out Toney. Looking at some great nicknames today. Arturo Thunder Gatti wasn't the most skilled fighter in the ring, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a gutsier warrior who ever stepped between the ropes. And like I always tell y'all, Gatti would have anybody he fight brawling. He would have Devin Haney in a brawl. You know, Devin, Mr. Outside, footwork, ring generalship, outboxer. Gatti would have Devin ass in the middle of the ring brawling. Gatti just had that knack. Thunder did. Gatti was best known for his all-out style of fighting and his willingness to accept all challenges. The typical Gatti fight would end with him willing to swallow 4 punches for every one he landed, with both eyes either swollen, bruised, bleeding, or completely shut. Despite all that, Gatti won more than his share of great fights. This included his 3 wars with Mickey Ward, fellow tough guy, between 2002 and 2003, in which Gatti emerged victorious in 2 of them. While known primarily for his fighting style, Gatti was also very successful in the ring, winning world titles in 3 weight classes. Unfortunately, he was taken from us before his time under suspicious circumstances in 2009. But his legacy as a blood and guts warrior lives on in the hearts of all who saw him compete. Great nicknames today. Next, James Bone Crusher Smith won the IBF Heavyweight Championship with a stunning first-round knockout of Tim Witherspoon in December of 1986. Perhaps more importantly, Bone Crusher surrendered that title by unanimous decision early the next year against a young fighter by the name of Mike Tyson. Smith was a big player in the heavyweight division in the 1980s, scoring wins over Witherspoon, Frank Bruno, and Jesse Ferguson. Bone Crusher briefly held a share of the heavyweight championship before losing it to Tyson. The fight was significant, even in defeat, as Bone Crusher became just the third fighter and first to go 12 rounds to hit a final bell against Iron Mike. Yep, Bone Crusher. Because Mike was getting him up out of there around that time. He was truly Iron Mike then when he fought Bone Crusher. And Bone Crusher went 12 rounds with him. Yep. Couple had went 10 with him before. Bone Crusher was the first to go 12 and only the third to go the distance. You know, they had 10 rounders, 12 and 15 back in them days. Okay. Look at some great. That's a good one there too. Cat Sports the Box Story. Okay. Now this is a good one here. Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lescano, was an undefeated, underrated fighter who, despite a good record, only challenged for a world championship once in his career. And in that fight, he lost a narrow decision to Mexican superstar Jose Luis Castillo. Lescano defeated solid but faded veterans Jesse James Legion and John Molina during his career. But his signature win came over former lightweight champion Stevie Johnston in 2003. Despite his inability to win a world title, that isn't what this list is about. And who can argue that the Hispanic causing panic isn't one of the great nicknames in boxing history? Might be the greatest. Juan, the Hispanic causing panic, Lescano. That is a great one, yeah. The Hispanic causing panic. Wow. Oh. Excuse me for a minute. That's Bone Crusher. Oh, I got two of Bone Crusher. Damn, I had Bone. That's one of the Hispanic causing panic, Lescano right there. My bad. And the next one is Oliver the Atomic Bull McCall. Now, Oliver the Atomic Bull McCall shocked the boxing world in 1994 when he knocked out then undefeated WBC heavyweight champion Lennox Lewis in the second round. Now, he would go on to successfully defend the title once before dropping it to Frank Bruno, and then losing a controversial rematch against Lewis in which McCall broke down crying in the ring. Just stopped fighting and broke down crying. McCall, who fought into his 50s, will always be best known for his signature fights against Lennox Lewis. One was a defining moment in his career, and the other one was one of the most bizarre incidents in the history of the sport of boxing. You remember that? He just stopped fighting and broke down crying. And they had to stop the fight because the Atomic Bull wouldn't fight anymore. Nope. The Atomic Bull said, that's it. And he was doing well. He had knocked Lennox out in the first fight and wasn't doing too bad in the second one. No, he sure wasn't. Okay, here's a well-known one here. He's actually got two nicknames. Now, Thomas Hearns has the distinction of having not one, but two great boxing nicknames. And whether you prefer to go with the more well-known Hitman or the Motor City Cobra, there's no doubt that Hearns belongs on this list. He had two great nicknames. Hearns was one of the most feared boxers of his generation, and he fought literally everybody there was to fight in his generation. He won world championships in 5 weight classes, from welterweight all the way up to light heavyweight. He was the first one to win 5. Hearns stepped in there with the greats of his generation, owning victories over Wilfred Benitez and Roberto Duran, and losses against Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvelous Marvin Hagler. The Hitman's 2 fights against Leonard, one a knockout loss and the other a draw, are widely considered some of the greatest fights in boxing history. The Hitman / Thomas the Hitman / Motor City Cobra Hearns. 2 great nicknames. Wow. Ray Boom Boom Mancini. That's Boom Boom in the fight that changed boxing from 12 rounds to 15 rounds. Him and Duke Coop Kip. Yep. Good movie too about that. He went over to South Korea, and met Tim's wife and son and everything, and they forgave him. Yeah. Doing the movie. I didn't cry. Miss Cass cried. I didn't though. Okay, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Boom Boom was an average to above average fighter with a tremendous heart. He was often willing to absorb multiple shots just to land one of his own. Mancini wasn't a one-punch knockout artist despite his nickname. He would often wear his opponents down, as much with his ability to take punishment and keep coming as with his own shots. He won the WBA lightweight title in 1982 and made several successful defenses. Despite this, his signature moment probably came in a blood and guts war against the legendary Alexis Arguello in 1981. Despite the loss, Mancini gave as good as he got for the majority of the 14 rounds and won a great deal of respect from the boxing community in that loss to Arguello. Another great nickname, he's coming up. Ray Boom Boom Mancini. Some of the great nicknames today. Andrew Six Heads Lewis. Yep. You heard right. Andrew Six Heads Lewis. That's his nickname. And there's Mike Grimm in the building. Salute, Mike. How are you today? We're gonna dust it off the nickname show, Mike. Look at some of the great nicknames again. Right now, Andrew Six Heads Lewis. Six Heads won the vacant WBA welterweight title in 2001 and defended it once before having all 6 of his heads knocked off by Ricardo Mayorga in 2002. Ricardo Mayorga knocked all 6 of Andrew Six Heads Lewis heads off. Okay. Now, Lewis had good power and won a world title, but was knocked out twice when he stepped up in competition. Once against Mayorga, and also a second round knockout loss to Antonio Margarito. And we don't know if Margarito had plaster or whatever in his gloves at that time or not. All his fights is suspect. Once you get caught doing that, all of them suspect to me. The Lewis is also known for retiring in the 7th round of a 2006 fight against Danny Dalton. Guess why he retired? He retired in the 6th round of that fight because of an urgent need to use the bathroom. And at the time of the stoppage, Lewis was well ahead on all 3 scorecards, but they had to give it to his opponent. He must have had a very urgent need of the bathroom. Yep. So you got to go. So he gave the fight up. You know? One of the classic sayings of all time. You got to go. And that's what happened to Six Heads. And lost the fight, well ahead on the scorecards. Okay, the next great nickname. Prentice Sweet Pea Whitaker was a defensive marvel in the ring. He was one of the best pure boxers in boxing history, and his ring intelligence was second to none. Whitaker won world titles in 3 weight classes and dominated the welterweight division in the mid-1990s. He held the WBC welterweight championship, which he won from Buddy McGirt in 1993 for 4 years, until a controversial loss to Oscar De La Hoya in 1997. Many still contend that Sweet Pea could have received the judge's nod that night, and not Oscar. Sweet Pea was also on the short end of another controversial decision, a draw, though no less egregious, against Mexican legend Julio Cesar Chavez in 1993. A fight that Whitaker clearly dominated and clearly won was instead declared a draw, despite the facts in the ring that night in Texas. Despite these setbacks, it was clear to anyone who saw him that Sweet Pea was an all-time great with an all-time great nickname. Yeah, and he got the nickname from a sports writer who made it Sweet Pea, P-E-A. But the fans, his nickname was Pete. And he was fighting in Norfolk, and they were saying Sweet Pete, P-E-T-E. And the sports writer mistook it as Sweet P-E-A, and it stuck, Sweet Pea. And the rest is history. Great nicknames today. Navarro Touch of Sleep Williamson came to boxing late and was a fringe heavyweight contender in the early 2000s. He challenged for a share of the heavyweight championship once, losing a close unanimous decision to IBF champion Chris Bird in 2005. Williamson is known for his punching power, as evidenced by his 23 knockouts and 27 pro wins. While his resume is made up largely of journeymen and fringe contenders, this is still an impressive stat and led to the well-earned Touch of Sleep nickname. Yeah, you better have a good knockout ratio with a nickname like Touch of Sleep. 23 knockouts and 27 wins. That's a knockout ratio of 85.1. Hence, his nickname, Touch of Sleep. All right, let's move on. Here's a good one here. This is a very fitting nickname here, too. Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum. Very fitting. The Body Snatcher dominated the 154-pound weight class in the mid-'80s. He won the WBA junior middleweight title in 1984 and made 7 successful defenses before moving up to middleweight. His first world challenge at 160 was unsuccessful, but the setback was brief, as he would win the WBA middleweight title in 1990. Couldn't get a fight with none of the 4 kings in the 80s, neither. None of them. In 1994, McCallum would secure a 3rd world title in a 3rd weight class, winning the WBC light heavyweight championship. During his career, he would step into the ring with fellow greats of his generation, such as Roy Jones Jr. and James Lights Out Tony. Although he wasn't able to defeat either man in the ring, the Body Snatcher will still go down as one of the best of his era. Mike the Body Snatcher McCallum. Merciless. It's Merciless on the right there. Merciless, Ray Mercer. Merciless is best known for his granite chin. A 1988 Olympic gold medalist who compiled an impressive amateur career while in the United States Army. Mercer is also a former WBO heavyweight champion. Merciless won his first and only heavyweight championship in 1991 with a stunning knockout of previously undefeated Tommy Morrison. He was also known for engaging in wars with two of the best of his generation, both decision losses against Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. Yeah, two great fights for those two. While both fights were close, many felt that Mercer got the short end of the stick against Lennox Lewis in a fight he deserved to win. Later in his career, his granite chin would frail him in a heavyweight title challenge against Vladimir Klitschko. But by that point, the man known as Merciless was badly faded. Merciless, Ray Mercer. Looking at some great nicknames today. Owen, what the heck, Beck. Owen, what the heck, Beck. What the heck was a fringe contender in the heavyweight division in the mid-2000s. He was never a terribly good fighter and lost every time he stepped up his competitive level. But Beck did have one great nickname. What the heck challenged for a world title once in his career. A fifth-round knockout loss to Nikolai Valuev in 2006. Remember, Valuev was one of the 7'1" or something heavyweight. After that, he became a journeyman, gatekeeper type fighter. Lost 8 consecutive fights after the Valuev loss, then he faded on away. But he still had a great nickname, Owen what the heck Beck. Okay. Next one is another great nickname too. All great nicknames. Vinny, the Tasmanian Devil, Pazienza. Vinny delivering the left hand. The Tasmanian Devil was one of the most colorful characters to ever step foot in a boxing ring. But even with his colorful antics, both inside and outside the ring, he was quite an accomplished fighter, having won world titles in the lightweight and junior middleweight divisions. The Tasmanian Devil competed at every weight class between lightweight and light heavyweight during his long career. Despite his 2 world championships, he was never able to recognize elite status, losing to fighters such as Hector Camacho and Roy Jones Jr. when he stepped up in class. Vinny the Tasmanian Devil, Pazienza. Here's T. Hill's guy here. Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Too Sharp spent most of his career as one of the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Competing in the lower weight classes, Too Sharp won world titles at flyweight, super flyweight, and bantamweight. He was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2012. Too Sharp was also a standout amateur fighter and was considered to have been avoided by bigger name fighters of his era at the pro level, including Johnny Tapia and Ricardo Lopez. 2 big names standing in the lower weight classes there. So Ricardo, Mr. 51-0. Wow. What's up, Rob the House? Appreciate you. Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Cast Sports, the Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Salute, Rob. Good to see you today, my friend. Yeah, today we are going over some of the great nicknames in boxing history, Rob. Like and subscribe, please. Appreciate you for stopping by, though, checking us out. Great boxing nicknames. Just finished Mark Too Sharp Johnson. Okay. Here's another good one. Michael, second to none. Right? Michael, second to none. Oh, salute, Pigeon. How are you? Okay, yeah. You got so many nicknames. Let me put you in blue because you do have a Rich here. And then one of your other names. Well, a couple of your other names. But salute. Good to see you today. Okay. You moderator under Rob Kohouse. Salute. Good to see you today, my friend. All right. Yeah, Michael second to none. Another great nickname. I don't know who thought that up, but that was genius. Michael second to none. Michael second to none was a standout amateur fighter who narrowly missed out on the Olympics and won world titles at middleweight and super middleweight. The second to none was a slick 6'2" southpaw with tremendous punching power and a force in the middleweight division for many years. He won his first world title in 1988 by dominating previously undefeated Frank Tate. He defended that title 5 times before a stunning knockout loss to James Toney in a fight none was well ahead on the cards at the time of the stoppage. I remember around 8 or 9, Tony's corner was telling him, come on, and all excited and worried. And Toney just told her, don't worry, he's not going the distance. And he went out there and stopped none. Like Sal said, don't worry, he's not going the distance. Now, Nunn would also go on to win a share of the super middleweight championship during his career. In 2004, he was sentenced to 24 years in prison on drug charges. But he is out now. I think he actually did 15. He got out in 2019, yeah. But yeah, he wanted to play in the drug world and paid for it with 15 years of his life, man. But he is out now, okay? So there is that. But you never get those 15 years back. Samuel, the Nigerian Nightmare, Peter. Yeah, that was madness, wasn't it, Pigeon? That was madness. Okay. The Nigerian Nightmare burst on the heavyweight scene at a time it was looking for a savior. The Nigerian Nightmare briefly appeared to be the man for the job. He had scary punching power and was an imposing foe for any opponent. In 2005, he lost a unanimous decision to future champion Vladimir Klitschko in a fight where the Ukrainian giant was dropped 3 times. He would lose decisively to Klitschko in 2010 by a 10th round knockout. Peter would move on to defeat James Toney twice, once highly controversial, and then Oleg Moskayev for the WBC heavyweight title. He would lose that title in his first defense, being dominated by Vladimir's older brother, Vitaly, en route to a 10th round stoppage. The Nigerian Nightmare ended his career 34-5, 27 knockouts. Samuel, the Nigerian Nightmare, Peter. Okay. Golden Boy. Don't know who that is. There he is. Oscar, the Golden Boy de la Hoya. Promised his mother the gold medal. His mother passed away, and then he went and got it. Legendary. Became the highest paid fighter in the sport at one time. There are few fighters who have transcended the sport of boxing in the way the Golden Boy did throughout his career. Oscar won Olympic gold at the 1992 Barcelona Summer Olympics in Spain, earning his nickname. It was one he would live up to, becoming the highest grossing fighter in the history of boxing at one point. Throughout his illustrious career, the Golden Boy defeated 17 world champions and won titles in 6 weight classes. He's also known for often finding himself involved in controversial decisions. And many people felt he should have lost to Pernell Whitaker, but deserved to win against Felix Trinidad. Others contend he lost to Felix Stern, but should have got the nod in the rematch with Shane Mosley. So yeah, he's been in some controversial ones, Oscar had. In 2007, Oscar, along with Floyd Mayweather Jr., competed in the highest grossing pay-per-view event in boxing history at the time. While Oscar was unable to take Mayweather's 0, he was highly competitive and dropped a narrow split decision. Some people even feel he should have eked out. I thought Floyd won it unanimously, but you know. After retiring from the sport as an active fighter in 2009, after being dominated by Manny Pacquiao, Oscar has thrown himself into the promoting end of the sport as head of Golden Boy Promotions. But actually, he was already in there when he was an active fighter. He was already promoting. Yeah, I think he started Golden Boy in 2002. Oscar, the Golden Boy De La Hoya. DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley. Chop Chop is a former WBO junior welterweight champion who is known for his nickname and his outlandish, sometimes outright crazy ring attire. Corley has fought many of the best of his era, coming up short in fights against Floyd Mayweather Jr., Miguel Cotto, and Zab Judah. He won the WBO junior welterweight title in a 2001 fight he took on just 5 days' notice. Right? Took the title fight on 5 days' notice and won it. In his later career, he became a stepping stone fighter, having 2 separate 6-fight losing streaks. DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley. Go back a ways here. Rubin Hurricane Carter. Hurricane is perhaps better known for his life outside the ring than the one in it. Hurricane spent many years in jail on murder charges that were later thrown out by a federal court after accusations of racism and withholding of evidence by the police during the trial. As a fighter, Carter competed as a middleweight and was known for his tremendous punching power and highly aggressive fighting style. It was these traits that earned him the nickname Hurricane. While he never won a world championship, his signature moment came when he knocked out former and future world champion Emil Griffith in 1963. And if he wouldn't have went to prison, he was an active fighter then, he probably would definitely would have been a champion. Great movie about his life too, starring Denzel Washington. Yeah. And some great music around that by Bob Dylan himself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great soundtrack by Bob Dylan. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. And there's some great nicknames. So Michael Nunn is a legend in the UK? Pigeon, okay. All right. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. That's another good nickname. Named after the town he lived in. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some people have a country. Larry Holmes got a town. Eastern Pennsylvania. The Eastern Assassin is one of the most feared heavyweights of all time. His left jab is to this day considered one of the most lethal weapons to ever appear in a boxing ring. Holmes burst on the scene with a dominant victory over hard-hitting contender Ernie Shavers in 1978. This would set up a war between Holmes and WBC champion Ken Norton, a fight in which Holmes won a tight split decision after taking the 15th and final round on two of the official scorecards. Holmes would defend that title 20 times, second only to Joe Louis's record of 25, and defeat fighters such as Shavers, Mike Weaver, a returning Muhammad Ali, Trevor Berbick, James Bone Crusher Smith, and Carter Truth Williams. Two more great nicknames. We covered Bone Crusher. Holmes would finally relinquish his title in a huge upset decision loss to reigning light heavyweight champion Michael Spinks in 1985. Holmes would never again hold a world title, though he did challenge 3 more times, dropping fights to Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, and Oliver McCall. Yep, Holmes was in 3 more title fights. Fought on into the 2000s, like 2001 or something like that. The Eastern Assassin, Larry Holmes. Great nicknames today. Okay, we got another one. Got a few more. Plenty more. Okay. Iran the Blade Barkley. That's a good one. There's the Blade. The Blade won world championships at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight during his career. His first world title he won in a stunning knockout of Thomas the Hitman Hearns in 1988. And he beat Hearns, took 2 titles from Hearns in 2 different weight classes, remember? He just had Hearns' number. The Blade lost the title in his first defense, a war with Roberto Duran, and then dropped a close majority decision to Michael Nunn. He would win a world title at super middleweight and then take a light heavyweight title bout again from Thomas Hearns in 1992. Barkley's career spiraled out of control after losing his super middleweight title to James Toney in 1993. He fell on hard times after campaigning as a heavyweight. And then was homeless for a while. Yep. And at the age of 51, he was considering a comeback, but nothing came of that. Fortunately. Nobody wanted to see the Blade back in there, you know? Okay. Okay, excuse me for 1 second. How's everybody this afternoon? It's Tuesday, still early in this big week of boxing history. Got more big shows coming to finish the week. But today, the 50 greatest nicknames in boxing history. And we're also going to talk about some of the great switch hitters in boxing history too, coming up next. And then we're going to talk about, like we talked about the Olympic gold medalists that became great pros. We're going to talk about some Olympic gold medalists today that didn't become so good at the pro level, right? Yep, that's later. All that today on Cast Sports The Box Story, bringing you all that boxing history. Okay, I ran the Blade Barkley. What's the last fighter? I was scrolling real fast and scrolled right out of my the publication I was using. I scrolled right on out of it. Okay, but we're back into it. Okay, the next great nickname is one of my favorites of all time anyway. The Explosive Thin Man, Alexis Arguello. There's Alexis on the left. One of the greatest fighters of all time, too. The Explosive Thin Man. Great nickname. The Explosive Thin Man, Alexis Arguello, is one of the most devastating punchers in the history of boxing. He was a 3-time world champion and has the distinction of being one of the few fighters in boxing history to never lose a title in the ring. All of his titles were vacated when he moved to higher weights to attempt to win the title at the next weight class. You know, he didn't stick around and weight bully back then. You grew out of the weight class, you vacated your title, you moved up. Okay? And that's what Alexis did 3 times. Never lost the title in the ring. Okay? The Explosive Thin Man is perhaps best known for his 2 wars with fellow boxing Hall of Famer Aaron Pryor. Though he lost both by stoppage, he is still considered to be one of the best fighters of his era and all time. The Explosive Thin Man, Alexis Arguello. Next great nickname is The Real Deal, Evander Holyfield. Now, The Real Deal is a former undisputed cruiserweight and heavyweight champion. He is also the only man to ever win a share of the heavyweight crown on 4 separate occasions. And he went for 5, I think, on 2 different occasions, but he never won it the 5th time. Okay? But he got it 4 different times. The Real Deal holds victories over a virtual who's who of the heavyweight division of the late 1980s and 1990s. These include wins over Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, Michael Moorer, George Foreman, Larry Holmes, and Ray Mercer. He is also known for a series of wars with cruiserweights, Dwight Muhammad Qualley. Unfortunately, the Real Deal's career continued well past his prime, and it evolved into a sort of circus sideshow. He stayed around way too long, but can't take away what he accomplished in there. Undisputed at cruiserweight and heavyweight in the 3-belt era, both of them. But he did stay around too long. Way too long, The Real Deal did. Okay, and next. Yeah, I used the same picture for both of them. Oh, no, I didn't. I could have. They're right next to each other. But, yeah. Next is Iron Mike Tyson. It is Iron Mike right there. Iron Mike Tyson. Great nicknames today, everyone. Like and subscribe. Appreciate everybody stopping by today to support. All right. Iron Mike Tyson is next. And in the 80s, he was really Iron Mike Tyson. Now, Iron Mike Tyson burst on the heavyweight scene in the mid-80s with devastating power and the ability to win fights by intimidating his opponents before they even stepped into the ring. Iron Mike won his first world title against Trevor Berbick in 1986, and at the age of 20, was the youngest to do so. He also became the first heavyweight fighter in history to unify the titles from the IBF, WBA, and WBC. Now, Floyd Patterson, back at the time they had 2, is the youngest undisputed champion at 21, because when Mike became 3-belt undisputed, he was past 21 by that point. He's the youngest to hold a part of the heavyweight title, but Floyd Patterson is still the youngest undisputed heavyweight champion. There's only WBA, NBA, and NBA, New York State Athletic Commission back then. I don't think the WBC was around yet. Now, the baddest man on the planet, Tyson won his first 19 fights by knockout, 12 of those in the first round. During his title reign, Tyson defeated many, if not most, of the top heavyweights of his time, including Berbick, Pinklon Thomas, Tony Tucker, Tony Tubbs, Larry Holmes, and Razor Ruddock. Iron Mike is also known for his one-round demolition of lineal heavyweight champion Michael Spinks in 1988 in 91 seconds, and also a 30-second demolishment of Marvis Frazier. His shocking knockout loss to James Buster Douglas in 1990 still ranks among the most shocking upsets in the history of sports, not just boxing, history of sports. Iron Mike was also known for his out-of-the-ring struggles, including a rape conviction in 1992 and his later mental health struggles. After returning from prison in 1995, Tyson again won 2/3 of the heavyweight title before being shockingly dethroned again, this time by Evander Holyfield. After the losses to Holyfield, the second coming after Tyson bit off a piece of the real deal's ear, his career devolved into a sideshow. A 2002 knockout loss against Lennox Lewis was the last relevant fight. But he is a member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame, rightfully so. Iron Mike Tyson. Great nicknames today. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Marvelous Marvin Hagler. And that's a nickname, that is his real legal name. Because the story is, back in the late 70s, early 80s, the commentators and sports writers, for some reason, wouldn't call him Marvelous, his nickname, so he went and made it his legal name, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. So that's not a nickname, that's actually his government name. Marvelous Marvin Hagler was a dominant force in the middleweight division throughout most of the 1980s. His reign as undisputed champion lasted from 1980 to 1987. And during that time, he made 12 defenses of his crown, only one going the distance, Roberto Duran. Marvelous Marvin Hagler is consistently ranked among the top 5 middleweights of all time and is considered to have one of the best chins in boxing history. During his career, he rang up impressive wins over Thomas Hearns, a decisive third-round knockout, and Roberto Duran, a 15-round war. Hagler's best-known fight, however, was probably a highly controversial decision loss to Sugar Ray Leonard in 1987. The fight was razor close, with both fighters landing a roughly equal number of shots, but Hagler being the more active of the two. The split decision verdict for Leonard remains highly debated, with many defending it and many feeling Hagler deserved to keep his titles. Yeah, you had to beat, back then that was the thing, you had to beat the champion. You wasn't just getting no split decision wins over no champion back in them days. So I felt Hagler, I'm in the camp of the ones that felt Hagler should have kept his title. And this is my most fitting nickname of all time right here. Most fitting boxing nickname of all time. Smoking Joe Frazier. Because he would be smoking in that ring. Smoking Joe Frazier. When he got knocked down 6 times by Big George Foreman, he was still smoking. Smoking Joe Frazier. Smoking Joe Frazier was both an Olympic gold medalist and undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. During his legendary career, he defeated many top heavyweights, including Jerry Quarry, Buster Mathis, Eddie Macon, and Jimmy Ellett. In 1971, Frazier defeated fellow legend Muhammad Ali at Madison Square Garden by a clear-cut, unanimous decision. The fight was dubbed the fight of the century, and it was Frazier's finest moment as a pro, and sent Ali to the hospital. Both went to the hospital. But yeah, it was his finest moment. Dropped Ali in the 15th round. Frazier would lose his titles by knockout to George Foreman before losing a disputed 12-round decision rematch against Ali in 1974. him and Eddie Futch complained about all that holding Ali was doing. Their third fight, the Thriller in Manila, was also an Ali victory after Frazier's trainer, Eddie Futch, stopped the fight due to eye swelling in the 14th round. The fight was known for its brutality, and despite the win, Ali declared after the fight that it was the closest thing to dying that he ever knew of. Frazier would again lose to Foreman in his next fight after the Thriller in Manila. And only two men, Frazier fought in the middle of the greatest era of heavyweight, and only two men ever beat him in his career. Ali twice and George Foreman twice. Only two that could beat Smoking Joe. Two of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And that's saying something. Big Daddy is next. Riddick Big Daddy Bowe is a former two-time world heavyweight champion, best known for his 3-fight series with Evander Holyfield and his 2 fights with Andrew Foulpole Golota. Bowe stood 6'5" tall and was an imposing frame in the ring. He possessed great power and used this and his size to his advantage. He won the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship in 1992, and in the process, handed Evander Holyfield his first career loss by unanimous decision. Soon after that fight, Bowe famously relinquished the WBC heavyweight title by throwing it in a trash can rather than face mandatory opponent Lennox Lewis. Bowe's reputation took a major hit as a result of this, receiving it as a duck of Lewis, and rightfully so. What else can you call it? Threw it in the trash. Bowe would go on to lose his rematch with Holyfield by a majority decision after entering the ring clearly out of shape. He would win their rubber match, however, and become the first man to knock Evander Holyfield out. Bowe would then fight Holy's contender, Andrew Foulpole Golota, twice, winning both fights by disqualification. After Golota, who was ahead on the scorecards in both fights, landed repeated low blows. Golota was beating Bowe both times. Hector Macho Camacho. We're looking at some great nicknames today. Hector Macho Camacho. Macho is one of a kind. From his outer ring bluster to his in-ring attire, there was absolutely nothing shy about this man. Macho won his first world championship by 5th round knockout over former champion Rafael Bazooka Limon. The belt had previously been declared vacant when champion Bobby Chacon refused to go to Puerto Rico to face Camacho. And that was just wrong. Chacon was the champion. How are you going to strip him for not going to this other man's country to fight him? That was just crazy. Probably was a WBC. It sounded like them. Can't remember which one it was. Okay, but yeah, Bobby Chacon was a champion, and they ordered him to go to Puerto Rico to fight Hector Camacho, where Camacho is from, and Bobby Chacon refused. He said he would fight him in the United States, and they stripped him. Wow, that was crazy. But anyway, it was the first of 4 world titles in 3 weight classes for Camacho. During his career, he would score notable wins over Limon, Jose Luis Ramirez, Ray Mancini, and Vinny Pazienza. Later in his career, he also scored virtually meaningless wins over faded Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard. Meaningless, totally meaningless. Neither one should even still been in the ring. And Roberto fought for like 10 or 12 more years after that. Roberto 42 is 50. Yeah. Mhm. Well, goodbye. What you think I'm making all this up in my head? Wow. Of course I'm reading from a script. Duh. Wow. Okay, let's continue. You think I got all this stuff remembered in my head? I'm a clown and he's a asshole. Now let's continue. Okay. Let me make sure it don't come back. Isn't that stupid? He says I'm reading from a script. Of course I'm reading from a script. What do you think? I got all this stuff remembered in my head? I'm not Einstein or nobody. That's actually stupid. That you're reading from a script. Well, anybody think I wasn't reading from a script? I am. Okay, let's continue. Put that behind us. Okay. John the Quiet Man Ruiz. That's the dumbest statement I've heard this year so far. You're reading from a script, clown. Of course I am. God damn. I thought everybody knew that. You think I got all this memorized? Okay, but John Ruiz, the Quiet Man. John the Quiet Man Ruiz was the first Latino World Heavyweight Champion and held the WBA Championship on 2 separate occasions. He was mostly known for his boring jab and grab style of fighting, but holds wins over several well-known fighters. Ruiz is known for his 3-fight series with a faded Evander Holyfield. Holyfield won the first fight, becoming the only 4-time heavyweight champion in history, but then dropped the rematch. This made Ruiz the first ever Latino to win a share of the heavyweight crown. Their third fight ended in a draw, though many felt Holyfield did enough to win. Ruiz would go on to drop the WBA title in a historic fight against light heavyweight champion Roy Jones Jr. During the fight, the much faster Jones pot-shotted Ruiz at will, en route to an easy, unanimous decision. Ruiz would again win the title with a unanimous decision over Hasim Rahman when Jones vacated the title to return to 175 pounds. He would once again make history with an 11th round TKO of Fres Oquendo in 2004. This was the first fight in which 2 Latino fighters competed for a piece of the heavyweight title. Ronald Winky Wright. Ronald Winky Wright. Now, you know a nickname is good when most people don't even know your real first name, okay? I actually didn't for a long time know Winky's first name. So that's when you know a nickname is an excellent nickname. Ronald Winky Wright was a defensive specialist whose often tactical style did not endear him to many fans. Despite his immense boxing ability, this prevented him from becoming a big draw on his own. Wright boasts a record that's a virtual who's who of his generation. In his career, Wright fought 12 world champions, defeating the likes of Shane Mosley twice, Felix Trinidad, and Ike Corte. Wright retired after dropping a clear decision to up-and-coming Peter Quillin. And during his career, he won the undisputed title at junior middleweight, and in the view of many, was robbed of a middleweight title when he fought to a disputed draw against Jermaine Taylor in 2006. Prince Naseem Hamed, some of the great nicknames of all time. Prince Naseem Hamed. Excuse me for one moment. Okay, we're back. Prince Naseem Hamed. That was his nickname, Prince. Prince Naseem Hamed is perhaps best known for his over-the-top stage ring entrances and crazy antics, both inside and outside the ring. Some of Hamed's entrances included reenacting Michael Jackson's Thriller video and riding a magic carpet to the ring. He's also known for his front somersault entrance into the ring. Hamed was a dominant force in the featherweight division, winning the WBC, WBO, and IBF titles, as well as the Lineal Championship. During his reign at featherweight, Hamed defeated many quality fighters, including current or former champions Manuel Medina, Tom Johnson, Kevin Kelly, and Wilfredo Vasquez. In 2001, Hamed lost his biggest fight decisively against Marco Antonio Barrera. Hamed was the heavy betting favorite coming into the fight, but was not able to deal with Barrera's aggressiveness and power. He would only fight once more and win over European champion Manuel Calvo. Yeah, Hamed was heavily favored coming into that one, but Barrera was not a little too much, a lot too much. And next is Kevin Kelly. The Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelly. The Flushing Flash. The Flushing Flash, Kevin Kelly, won 2 New York Golden Gloves championships before turning pro. As a pro, he won his first and only world championship, the WBC featherweight belt, by unanimous decision over Gregorio Vargas in 1993. Kelly is known more for his notable losses than his victories. In 1997, he lost to Prince Naseem Hamed in the Ring Magazine's Fight of the Year in the fight. Both men were down 3 times, with Hamed scoring the knockout blow in the 4th round. Kelly also had notable losses against Marco Antonio Barrera and Eric Morales, but both occurred when he was well past his prime. Tommy the Duke Morrison, the Duke. There's the Duke. Tommy the Duke Morrison. Way underperformed in his career. Everybody was expecting a lot more from the Duke. Now, the Duke is a former WBO heavyweight champion, having won the vacant title by unanimous decision over George Foreman in 1993. It was his second challenge for the title, having been knocked out in a previous attempt against Ray Mercer. Talked about that earlier. During his career, he also scored notable wins over Pinklon Thomas, Joe Hip, and Donovan Ruddock. Morrison never realized his vast potential, owing in large part to troubles outside the ring. His career was cut short in 1996 when he revealed he had tested positive for HIV, a fact he later disputed. Coming to Duke Morrison. Ike Bazooka Cortez. Ike Bazooka Cortez is a former WBA welterweight champion who fought many of the best of his era, though in losing efforts. Cortez won the title by 11th round knockout over Crisanto España in 1994. He would go on to defend the belt against notable opponents such as Vince Phillips and Oba Carr before challenging Oscar De La Hoya for the WBC belt in 1993. Cortez put up a game performance against De La Hoya in a fight he lost by split decision. Many felt the fight was controversial and favored Cortez, despite the fact that he was knocked down by the Golden Boy in the 6th and 12th round. Bazooka also found himself on the short end of the stick in a comeback fight in 2005 against Vernon Forrest, losing a unanimous decision to Forrest in 2006. Most ringside observers again felt that Cortez had gotten the short end of the stick in a fight he had won. Donovan Razor Ruddock. Looking at some great nicknames. Donovan Razor Ruddock. Razor Ruddock was a highly promising heavyweight contender in the 1980s and early 1990s. Ruddock got the nickname Razor because of his cutting jab and tremendous power. He nicknamed his left hook the Smash. Ruddock turned in perhaps his best performance when he brutally knocked out former heavyweight champion Michael Dokes in 1990. He would then go on to lose 2 spirited fights against Mike Tyson, one by knockout and one by decision in 1991. Ruddock would also lose by knockout to Lennox Lewis and Tommy Morrison before stringing up a series of wins against B-level opposition and calling it a career. Okay, winding down on the nicknames. Nate, the Hands of Stone. Roberto Manos de Piedra / Hands of Stone Duran. Hands of Stone is one of these iconic nicknames in the sport, which is attached to a man considered by most experts to be an all-time top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. Roberto Duran won world titles in 4 weight classes: lightweight, welterweight, junior middleweight, and middleweight. He is considered by many to be the greatest lightweight fighter of all time. A versatile brawler in the ring, Duran's most notable performances both came in the ring against Sugar Ray Leonard. One for winning, one for losing. Duran would challenge Leonard in 1980 for a share of the welterweight crown. In a fight that had a highly contentious lead-up, Duran won a unanimous 15-round decision and lifted the crown off of Sugar Ray. And Duran really won that title in the highly contentious lead-up, because Leonard came in and fought angry and fought Duran's fight. Now the rematch later that same year was known for the infamous and dispirited No Mas moment, when Duran inexplicably quit in the 8th round of a very close fight, still well within the fight. I think Leonard had like a 1-point lead on one card and 2 on the others, or 2 on 1 and 1 on the other, but it was still a very close fight with 8 rounds to go, and Duran quit. To this day, Duran disputes that he quit the fight simply because he didn't want to fight, but it has been a derisive nickname that has followed him ever since. But he did make a good comeback from that. He won 2 more titles after that. Okay, Duran did. Made a very good comeback from the Nomar situation. Ferocious Fernando Vargas. Ferocious Fernando Vargas. Well, we might not get the other stuff in. We're just going to take this off. Let's do it much faster earlier. Okay. Now, Ferocious Fernando Vargas is a former 2-time junior middleweight world champion who was one of the hottest prospects in boxing during the late 1990s. Though he had a successful career, it could easily be said that Vargas did not reach his full potential. Vargas defeated several quality fighters in his career, including Yoey Boy Campos, Raul Marquez, Winky Wright, and Ike Cortez. He never appeared to be the same fighter after a brutal back and forth knockout loss to Felix Trinidad in 2000. He would then go on to lose a grudge match, also by knockout, against rival Oscar De La Hoya. After a series of comeback fights against light opposition, Vargas returned to the upper echelon, losing twice to Shane Mosley, both in brutal fashion. He would call it a career after dropping a majority decision grudge match to Ricardo Mayorga in 2007. Bernard, the Executioner / Alien Hopkins. He had 2 nicknames also. B-Hop did. Well, 3. The Executioner, the Alien, and B-Hop. Bernard Hopkins is one of the few fighters you can say would be able to compete in any era of the sport. He was simply that good, according to his 50. His list of career achievements is legendary. Former undisputed middleweight champion on more than one occasion. First man to retain all 4 sanctioning body titles and the Ring Magazine belt in one fight. A record 20 defenses of the middleweight title. Former Ring Magazine light heavyweight champion. The oldest man to ever win a world title. You can go on and on and on and on with B-Hop. Bernard Hopkins. B-Hop, the Alien, Execution. O'Neal Give 'em Hell Bell. O'Neal Give 'em Hell Bell. That's another good one. O'Neal Give 'em Hell Bell. Give 'em Hell Bell is a former undisputed cruiserweight champion, having held the WBA, WBC, IBF, and the Ring Magazine cruiserweight titles, 3-belt undisputed around that time. In doing so, Bell became only the 2nd undisputed champion in the overlooked division, joining Evander Holyfield, cruiserweight. Bell won his first title by defeating Dale Brown for the IBF belt in 2005, and then defeated John Mark Mormack for the WBA and WBC titles. This was in 2006. The win would be the last significant one of Bell's career. Ronaldo Mr. Snipe. His nickname, Mr. Ronaldo Mr. Snipe. Mr. Snipes is best known for his title challenge against Larry Holmes in 1981. Snipes was able to knock Holmes down in the 7th round of their fight and gave a good account of himself before being stopped in the 11th round. Though he was more of a stepping stone type fighter, Snipes was always dangerous and gave tough fights to notable names such as Tim Witherspoon, Greg Page, and Tyrell Biggs. He defeated future WBC heavyweight champion Trevor Berbick in 1982 by unanimous decision, dropping him in the first round. The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis. You cannot have any discussion of the history of heavyweight boxing that does not include the Brown Bomber. He's considered by many to be simply the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. And yes, many put him above Muhammad Ali. The Brown Bomber was the world heavyweight champion for a record 140 months, nearly 12 years. During that time, he made a heavyweight record 25 successful defenses of his title. With devastating knockout power, Louis transcended the sport of boxing. He is widely credited with becoming the first Black American cultural icon in the United States at a time when Black Americans were still struggling to gain acceptance. All right. Eric Butterbean Esch. Yeah, Butterbean made it. You just got to expect me to take 50 people and just remember everything about them up in my head. Tell me I'm reading. Wonder if he can do that. Take this whole show and just do it from memory. I doubt it. That's just an ignorant person, but that's kind of my core a little bit. I mean, I'm reading. Of course I'm reading, you nut. But let's go. Eric Butterbean Esch. Eric Butterbean Esch has one of those iconic and slightly ridiculous nicknames that make it so few people actually know his real name. Known as the King of Four Rounders, Esch appeared as a sideshow fan favorite on many a pay-per-view card in the mid to late 1990s. Butterbean had a record of 77 wins, 8 losses, 4 draws, and 58 knockouts. He was known for his heavy looping punches and his girth, always stepping in the ring at well over 300 pounds and often closer to 400. Much of his career was spent knocking out club level and journeyman type fighters. Though a few straight name fighters do appear on his resume. Got a few names on it. Fort Holmes. These include professional loser Louis Monaco, Fort Mike Tyson, Peter McNeely, and former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes. Butterbean got a few names on his record. And Holmes was well past his prime, but he beat Butterbean by unanimous decision in 2002. Roman Made in Hell Karmazin. Roman Made in Hell Karmazin. Here's Roman. Couple more to go. Roman Made in Hell Karmazin is a former junior middleweight champion with one hell of a nickname. Karmazin is known as a steady volume puncher who won the IBF junior middleweight title against Kasem Yuma in 2005. He also defeated former middleweight champion Keith Holmes, but lost his title to Corey Spinks in 2006. Jermaine Bad Intentions Taylor. Look at this, some great boxing nicknames for that. Jermaine Bad Intentions Taylor. Bad Intentions was a supremely talented former undisputed middleweight champion. Best known for being the man to dethrone legendary champion Bernard Hopkins So both of his wins were highly controversial. And also the second person to ever be four-belt undisputed in the four-belt era after Beehive. Taylor had a career full of controversy and disputed decisions. In addition to the Hopkins fights, which many felt he lost, he was a beneficiary of very close and controversial decisions against Winky Wright, a draw, and Corey Spinks, which they gave to Taylor. Taylor lost his middleweight title by knockout against Kelly Paddock. After dropping a decision rematch, he then moved up in weight and defeated Jeff Lacey. He next challenged WBC super middleweight champion Carl Froch and entered the final round ahead on the scorecards before being stopped in the final seconds. Taylor then participated in the Super 6 Challenge at 168 pounds and was brutally knocked out in the 12th round by undefeated Arthur Abraham in what was up to that point a competitive fight. Taylor suffered a severe concussion as a result and had short-term memory loss. Remained Bad Intentions Taylor. Glenn the Road Warrior Johnson. This is a fitting name too, because he was really a well-traveled fighter. Glenn the Road Warrior Johnson. There's Glenn on the left. B3 Picks TV. What's up, B3? We're looking at some nicknames today, B3. Just got a couple more. Glenn the Road Warrior Johnson, and he really got a fitting nickname. Listen to this. Glenn the Road Warrior Johnson has literally been all over doing his pro career. In nearly 20 years in the sport, he fought in the United States, England, the Bahamas, Aruba, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Antilles, the Cayman Islands, and Canada. So that Road Warrior nickname is very fitting. Johnson is a former IBF and Ring Magazine light heavyweight champion, and has stepped into the ring with a who's who of fighters from middleweight to light heavyweight in his generation. As an undefeated contender, he lost by 11th round TKO to Bernard Hopkins in 1997. After the loss to Hopkins, Johnson became a world traveler and had 7 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw in his previous 17 fights before he went up against IBF light heavyweight champion Clinton Woods in 2003. Johnson and Woods fought to a draw the first time around, with Johnson winning the rematch by unanimous decision to secure his first world title. He then got a signature win, the most signature win of his career, shockingly and brutally, knocking out Roy Jones Jr. in Memphis, Tennessee in 2004. Before adding the Ring Magazine to his collection. Johnson would lose the title to Tarver in the 2005 rematch, Antonio Tarver. Yep, but his nickname is very fitting, the Road Warrior. Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao. A couple more nicknames. Manny the Pac-Man Pacquiao. Now, where does one begin talking about Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao? First man to win championships in 8 weight classes, held 4 lineal or recognized world titles in those divisions, and been voted Fighter of the Year by the Boxing Writers Association of America and the Ring Magazine on 3 separate occasions. The Pac-Man. The baby-faced assassin, Marco Antonio Barrera. The babyface assassin was a multi-time world champion in 3 weight classes: super bantamweight, featherweight, and super featherweight. During his illustrious career, he fought many of the best, and is best known for his trilogy with fellow Mexican fighter Erik Morales. Barrera won his first world title at super bantamweight in 1995. He defended that title 8 times, with notable wins over future champion Agapito Sanchez and Kennedy McKinney on the first telecast of HBO's Boxing After Dark series. Barrera lost the title when he dropped consecutive fights to Junior Jones. Okay, a couple more to go. 2 more as a matter of fact. Freddie Little Hagler Norwood. Yeah, they call him Little Hagler. There he is. Little Hagler. There's Little Hagler on the left. Freddie Little Hagler Norwood. Freddie Little Hagler Norwood was a very successful featherweight fighter who held the WBA championship and defended it 8 times. His most notable defense during that time was a unanimous decision victory over Juan Manuel Marquez in 1999. Okay, and finally, final nickname is the Greatest. Let's close it down. This took the entire show out. The Greatest. The Greatest, Muhammad Ali. There's some great nicknames today. Saving the best for last. The Greatest. Muhammad Ali was simply that. The best to set foot in the ring. Ali was more than a boxing icon. He was a cultural icon and a symbol of the anti-Vietnam War movement that seized the nation in the late 1960s. Ali would go on to participate in some of the best known fights in the history of the heavyweight division and all of boxing. His 3-fight series with fellow legend Smoking Joe Frazier remains to this day one of the most legendary rivalries in all of sports, not just boxing, all of sports. Ali dropped the first fight to Frazier by unanimous decision in New York City in a fight deemed the fight of the century. Ali would go on to win 12 of his next 13 fights, including notables over Buster Mathis, Jerry Quarry, Floyd Patterson, Bob Foster, and a split with Ken Norton before challenging Frazier again. This time, Ali would get the nod, defeating his rival by unanimous decision and setting up a fight with up-and-comer Big George Foreman. The Rumble in the Jungle would pit Ali against the younger Foreman in a matchup many felt Ali could not win. The fight took place on October 24th, 1974 in Kinshasa, Zaire. Today it's called the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But the Greatest would not be denied. He allowed Foreman to throw as many punches as he wanted, most landing on Ali's gloves and arms. This strategy, later called the rope-a-dope, tired out the bigger and stronger Foreman and allowed Ali to land consistent, hard shots to the face. By the 8th round, an exhausted Foreman was primed for Ali. Ali landed a series of shots to the head, culminating in a straight right that would end Foreman's night and give Ali the most unlikely win of his career. He became the second man to win the world heavyweight title back after losing it after Floyd Patterson. And he went on and did it again in 1978. But Ali would not be done with big fights after this Foreman fight, once again taking on old rival Joe Frazier in 1975. This time Ali left no doubt, winning the Thriller in Manila by 14th round knockout, TKO. Ali would lose the world title in 1978, dropping a split decision to 7-fight novice, Leon Spinks. He regained the title for the final time, winning a rematch with Spinks later in the same year. In doing so, he would become the first man to ever hold the lineal, first and only to hold a lineal heavyweight championship 3 times. Because Holyfield did it 4 times, but he didn't win the lineal 3 times. Right? He beat the man that beat the man. Okay, Ali did that 3 times as heavyweight champion. What's up, Puro? How are you today? We just looked at some nicknames today, Puro. Yeah. Final was the greatest. Muhammad Ali. Yep, and everybody hit the like and subscribe, please. Appreciate y'all. Okay, and have no idea what we're gonna do tomorrow, but we're gonna do something at 2 p.m. as we always do. And there's BBO Sports TV and the Sports Talk Network coming up tonight at 8 p.m. I still can't get over that nut. He told me I'm reading. Supposed to take 50 fighters and just remember everything in my mind. Of course I'm reading. God damn. That's the stupidest comment I heard this year. He said, "You're reading a script," and called me a clown. Think I got all this stuff in my head just by memory. Come on, man. Got to have a script to follow. What the hell is wrong with it? Some people just clowns, man. Wake up in the morning to be a clown. Well, not clown, assholes. Okay, you put it right. They wake up in the morning to be that. But yeah, I thought it was a good show, and I appreciate everybody that sat through it and appreciate boxing history. Okay? Appreciate boxing history. Not looking for something to criticize. And we still got 3 more big days of boxing history to come this week. Isn't that great? Emmanuel Navarrete this weekend. Yeah. 6 heads, yep. And I forgot the guy's name. He had a pretty good nickname. Remember the guy that he was winning the fight on all 3 judges' scorecards, but he had to use the bathroom. So he just left. He gave the fight to his opponent. You know, you gotta go, right? And he had an urgent need to go to the bathroom, so he just left. Said, "That's it. I'm out." Yeah, you don't get no bathroom breaks in boxing. Right? They had it been football or baseball or something. You could say, "Coach, put somebody in there for me. I gotta go to the bathroom." Must have been number 2. But yeah, wasn't that crazy? I can't remember. I'm trying to find out who he was now. I'm gonna go back. Now, if I wasn't reading, it would be in my head like that fool said. Right? That's crazy though. You're reading. Okay, it was before Oscar. I'm gonna find out who that was. He had an urgent need to use the bathroom. Was it 6? I think it was 6 heads, Pharaoh, the one you just said. I believe it was 6 heads. After he got all 6 of his heads knocked off by Margarito, I think. Yeah, I believe it was 6 heads. He had an urgent need to use the bathroom, so he said, "Well, I'll throw my head on all the cards. You can have it. I gotta go." Yeah. Andrew 6 heads Lewis. Right. Yeah, we hear this. Yeah, Andrew was known for retiring in the 7th round of a 2006 fight. Well, Andrew 6 heads Lewis is known for retiring in the 7th round of a 2006 fight against Danny Dalton because of an urgent need to use the bathroom. And at the time of the stoppage, Lewis was well ahead on all three scorecards. What do they call it? A TKO or a BKO? Bathroom knockout? I don't know. But the man had to go, so he lost the fight. On the way to winning, too. But I appreciate everybody for stopping by today, though. Appreciate everybody's support. Yeah, Puro to put them all in there. Yeah, we covered all those today too, Puro. Let's see. 6 heads, yeah. I don't think we did. Who else? JC Superstar, the Hawk, Manta Killer. We didn't do Manta Killer either. Yeah. Manta Killer was can't remember. Manta Killer. The killer. Oh, that was I think it was a welterweight, right? Puro meant the killer. Yeah. But yeah, we had 50 of the greatest nicknames in boxing history. And the two most fitting for one of them is Smoking Joe Frazier, because he was always smoking in that ring. And the guy, the well-traveled guy, for the like 20 different countries. What do you call him, the journeyman or something? Most fitting nicknames in boxing history. Yep. Well, I hope everybody have a great afternoon. Just Do Boxing is up next. You got BBO Sports TV tonight at 8 p.m. The gang over there. Great show, man. BBO had like 400 or 500 people in his lives, man. All that good stuff he be talking, you know. And they have people, they go in lives, but they would have somebody talk about, oh, he had a great ring walk with that. The color combination between his gloves and his trunks were fabulous. They said, listen to that nonsense. Listen. Sleeping on people like BBO, you know. I remember back in the old days, them guys used to just cut off a pair of blue jeans to go in the ring with and fight. Wouldn't worry about no looks. Yeah. Bob Fitzsimmons would have a pair of blue jeans cut off at the knees in there fighting them. Mm-hmm. That's how they did it back in the day. Night before the fight, tell his wife, honey, give me those scissors over there. These old, I'm gonna cut these off and wear them in the ring tomorrow night. Mm-hmm. These old jeans there, yeah. And jumping into the fur off somebody's ass. And some cut off blue jeans. Okay, but that's gonna be it for today. Appreciate everybody. We had BBO Sports TV, Puro, B3 Picks TV, the asshole, whatever his, I even forgot his name. I think he was from the UK. Mm-hmm. And the UK got some great people over there. Everybody got their picks, good and bad everywhere. One bad apple don't spoil a whole bunch though. Okay, Mike Rem, Thomas Hill, Just Do Boxing, The Drunk Irishman, Mike Mazik, and Miss Cass. Everybody have a great, beautiful afternoon. Watch that snow. It missed us here in Maryland. Everybody around us talking about feet, 2 feet and all that kind of stuff. We didn't get nothing. You can still see the ground and stuff out there. Mm-hmm. We lucked out this time. But I appreciate everybody. Just Do coming up next. BBO later on tonight at 8. This is Cass Sports, the Box Story. Everybody have a great afternoon. Appreciate you, Mike Mazik. One of my oldest and most loyal people right there. The Mike brothers, Mike Mazik and Mike Rem. But appreciate everybody. Everybody have a great afternoon. Cass Sports, the Box Story, and y'all